I'm Leonard Riggs Jr., and this is my podcast From My Head to Your Ears. I like to talk about all kinds of things, and usually when I get an idea to do a podcast, I have to do it or I lose my inspiration. So stay tuned, and we're going to talk about today's subject. I'm Leonard Riggs Jr., and this is my podcast From My Head to Your Ears. Today I'm just going to talk about whatever. I don't really have a theme. I'll know the theme when I'm done. Truth is, I was off today. I was very bored and uninspired, and the weather was super nice outside, but it's February in Southern Illinois, and, well, it's February everywhere. Genius, but it's it's February and I'm in Southern Illinois, and it's been in the 70s and 60s, and the weather is just bizarre, and it's not my favorite weather for February because I kind of like my seasons, and I find wintertime necessary to kind of hibernate and to watch movies and eat chili and, just kind of live the winter life. I'm not ready to have to mow the lawn, and in my case have to find somebody to mow my lawn, and all the obligations that come with springtime and summer. Plus, I'm not a fan of heat and humidity at all. But today, I just was off. It was my second of 2 days off. I actually had to call in yesterday because my sister was sick and we're caregivers, and I had to stay home and take care of my mom. And I don't like to call in to work at all. I don't like the loss of money. I don't like the trouble it causes everybody, but stuff happens. My sister was sick. She couldn't help it. So I'm sitting there today kind of wallowing in self-pity and bored, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go shave my beard off. So that's what I did. I shaved my beard off. And you know what? I kind of felt better. I needed a change, a sudden change. And I think that's how I deal with boredom. I find something to change how I feel. I find something to do. And that kind of made me feel better. So I thought, gee, I want to do a podcast, and it's due. I really enjoyed my last podcast talking about work adventures, and I plan to do another one on that, but not this time. I want to plan that out a little better. So I think where this is going is what I do to deal with boredom and depression. Now, when I say depression, I don't mean deep depression. I don't mean I'm crying or suicidal or what have you, which that's horrible. I've never felt suicidal. I have been deeply sad before and heartbroken due to whatever was going on in my life that is rotten, and it's kind of stops you in your tracks. But I am down because I don't like being bored. I have to have something to do. I enjoy work sometimes because it gives me something to do, somewhere to be, a sense of purpose. I get to talk to people, stuff like that. Here lately, my legs have been hurting something awful, and it's been kind of difficult to get through, but, nothing that a change of shoes might help, or taking some over-the-counter ibuprofen or something to help the pain. But that's just that. That's how you do pain. But boredom, you have to find yourself something to do to stay occupied, to keep occupied. I can do lots of things creatively. I can write. I can do my blog. I can do this podcast. I can make a TikTok video. I can do a Snapchat. I can do lots of things to cheer myself up. Listen to music. Love music. Love movies. That's why I do film festivals. I like to plan those, and they give me something to do, and they also give me ideas for TikTok videos. I kind of like the whole thing of being able to reach out to the world with my podcast, my TikTok videos, my what have you. It cheers me up, and it's something I think I've mentioned in past podcasts that I wanted to be a broadcaster. My biggest dream was to be a late night talk show host on a little AM station. I used to listen to WLS a lot on a clear night when I couldn't sleep, and I loved they would have some bizarre subjects or talk to some interesting people, and they were just witty and funny. And I thought, wow, that would be a cool gig to get to do that for a living. I used to want to be a DJ. I think I mentioned that before. I couldn't do it now because I don't love today's music, not in the very least. There's a few songs I like, but wow, music is really just not for me anymore. I love music, but I should say newer music is just not for me. I don't get where it's coming from. It does not appeal to me at all. It doesn't touch me in any way, except for it annoys the daylights out of me. But I guess that's because I'm almost 60 years old, and that's just natural. So what I do oftentimes and have done since I was a little kid is I've used my imagination to entertain myself for the longest time. When I was a kid, I remember being bored and breaking apart a few clothespins and drawing faces on them and pretending they were people and having a little adventure just using my total imagination to play. That sounds ridiculous, but I was alone a lot as a kid, and that's what I did. I would just find ways to entertain myself, and most of the time it was harmless. No, I wasn't ever a wild kid. I was a very mild kid and shy and backwards. And I remember when I was a kid, I would get on my bike and ride to our local Catholic church, who has a huge parking lot to this day, actually. And they used to have concrete planters, little circular concrete planters. And I used to ride my bike around them, and I would pretend like if I rode fast enough, I could travel in time. And I would imagine circling until I was in the future, and how it would be when I went to my house and my parents either were gone or they were there and really old and wouldn't know me as a little child. I remember those games really well. Also, when I would have friends over, I talk about my friend Craig a lot. When I was older, we used to make movies in our backyard with my Super 8 camera. We made quite an epic one time called, what did we call that? Was that Super Guy? I'd have to ask him. But we used a big, I say action figure. I refuse to call him a doll. His name was Electro Man. And he had a light on his head, and he had a cape. He was pretty cool looking. And the light lit up, and it was a strobe light. But anyway, it was a cool toy, and we used him as our superhero. I don't think that was Super Guy. That was another project we did. I don't remember what we called that. But anyway, we made a great epic in my backyard. And there's a picture of me that exists from that day. I believe I was 14 or 15, and I was Napoleon Dynamite before Napoleon Dynamite was Napoleon Dynamite. I had the big red frizzy hair and glasses, and I was very skinny. And that picture cracks me up to this day. But I eventually kind of grew into my looks, I guess. I don't really look like Napoleon Dynamite now. I think I just look like Leonard Riggs. Actually, I look like a Leonard Riggs Sr. sometimes when I look in the mirror and see my dad. But I digress. I just, having a active imagination has really served me well. I wished I really would have done more with it, because there was a point where I used to write music, and I had notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of, I don't know music, but I was lyrics, I should say. But I have notebooks of poetry and things that I wrote. We had a really cool class when I think I was a junior, and it was creative writing, and it was taught by a teacher named Larry House, and it was kind of freestyle, and we had little projects to do for grading every now and then, but for the most part, we came in and we just created. We wrote journals, we wrote little stories, and I loved that creativeness of the class. I loved art class as well, although I wasn't the best painter in the world. I have dabbled in art. My nephew John is an artist in New York, and is a renowned artist, actually, and has art shows, and his longtime girlfriend, love of his life, Anki, is a world-renowned artist as well, and she's from Norway, and she's very well respected there. And so my family has a lot of creative people, and I think my nephew once told me, and John, forgive me if you're listening, that I was an influence because I used to do those stop motion animated movies with my Mego Star Trek action figures. Again, not dolls, action figures. But my dad actually taught me how to do stop motion films, and I did a couple of my own, not with Craig, but I was so kind of backward to show him those, because Craig's kind of my friend that is good at everything he does, and I kind of respect what he does, and I just don't want him to see my hacky movies I made. But my nephew John has told me that I influenced him somewhat in what he does with his art, and that made me really proud. And I'm proud of my nephew, very proud, more than he'll ever know. I'm back, continuing my topic of whatever. Mostly what I'm talking about is what I do with boredom and what I used to do with boredom. And I've always been able to entertain myself, as I said. And I like to do this podcast. Love this, actually. Glad I started it. A lot of people suggested that I do it. Margaret, are you listening? I'm loving it. It's fun. It's a fun way to reach out to people. And I get to talk. And I love to talk. So, yeah, it gives me something to do, something creative, and I feel much more fulfilled as a human being when I can be creative. And I get a little me time while I'm doing it as well, even though my kitty cat Livy is sitting on my leg right now. But I can do all kinds of things to keep from getting too bored. As I stated, I'm a caregiver for my mom, so there's a lot of sitting and watching with her, and when I'm not feeding her or changing her or taking care of her, there's a lot of sitting and watching TV with her and that kind of things. So I love movies, so there's another thing I do to pass the time. I watch old movies. I try to find movies that we both enjoy. I watched Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry last night, which is an all-time great car chase film. And believe it or not, she really enjoyed it. She was excited by it. But I also like to do TikTok videos. I found that I refused to do that at first, but I found a reason to do it. I do little clips about my movie festivals and talk about movies, and I get to show off my cats a little bit, and yeah, I enjoy that a lot. I did love Snapchat. It's not as much fun anymore, and I'm kind of burned out on it. I think I mentioned in the last podcast that the police officers were putting me on without my knowledge and that sort of thing. That's how I got started in that. But I kind of made it my own and did what I wanted, and I still enjoy doing Snapchats. I just don't have the creative drive on that I used to, because I think I got burned a little bit and burned out. So I don't enjoy that as nearly as much as I used to. I used to do all kinds of silly things on there. But again, I was dealing with grief, and I needed an outlet to laugh and to stay happy. But my other things I'm doing is more just to keep me occupied and keep me from getting in trouble. Of course, I probably could say things on the podcast that would get me in trouble, but I hope not. I'm very careful as to what I say, I think. I also like to, I have a blog, and I like to write. I love to write. I used to physically love to write with an ink pen and a paper, and I used to type when I didn't want to write. And now with, of course, my tablet or my phone, I can just type. And it's not nearly as much fun. I have a blind eye on my right eye. I don't see anything, and I tend to strain my good eye looking at a screen all the time, so I really have to avoid spending way too much time doing that. But I enjoyed TikTok. I really didn't want to do because I thought it was childish or it was for kids, and I kind of fell out of place. But out of boredom, I started watching other people's TikToks, and I realized there's a lot of people my age and older that are on there. Of course, our generation is tech savvy, and I do believe we've taken over just about every youthful thing. We took over MySpace, we took over Facebook, and we're kind of taking over TikTok. Kids just can't win with our generation, can they? Rock on. Our music's better too, by the way. But anyway, I found out TikTok, I like their editing stuff, and I enjoy, like I have my movie festivals, which again is another way that I entertain myself. And I can do my little trivia about movies or what I'm watching that night. And just maybe put things out there, maybe things that people didn't know, and just put it out in the universe. And I enjoy that. I enjoy being able to reach out to the world with the internet, with my podcast, with my TikToks, with my Snapchats is more private, and with my blog. I love that. I love that when I check my viewer or my listeners, that it's been all over the world, or my viewers, that people in Australia have seen me, in Japan, and isn't that amazing? I just love that. That is so amazing. The internet is, oh gosh, I'm so glad I live in a time when we have this. I remember when I was a kid, though, and I was really bored, going back to that era again. My sisters were very imaginative. Well, you hang around with girls, because I was the only boy around when I was little. I had a younger friend than me, but he was actually a baby. But I was the only boy for a little while, other than my neighbor Tony. And ended up hanging out with my sisters and their friends, and they were always doing seances and making up stuff. And one of my neighbors had a tape recorder. Now that was right up my alley. They would do scary stuff and make up scary stories, and I love doing that. So that's something I continue to do. And my mom, one summer, I was so bored that she had laid away, remember layaway? Laid away at the store uptown a tape recorder for me for Christmas. And she felt so sorry for me, she got it out of layaway and went ahead and let me have it in the middle of summer, because I was just so bored. And I had so much fun with that tape recorder, I couldn't even tell you. And I think she was happy that she got it out for me, because I think she worried about me, because I was just this weird kid that needed to be stimulated mentally all the time. Oh, and in the 70s, I hadn't really found I hadn't really found Star Trek yet. I hadn't found my thing that I liked, because I find that I like to have something I'm kind of obsessed with, that I can enjoy and learn about, and it has to be interesting. I found Star Trek amazing, and the whole notion of what Gene Roddenberry did to this day. Kolchak the Night Stalker was another one that I liked, and I loved stories like that and scary movies. Of course, then I found Olivia Newton-John, and she was like a princess from a faraway land, and such a fascinating human being, and so many recordings. When I finally became a fan of hers, I had a lot to go back on to find, and of course she recorded clear up till the end of her life, and that was sad for me. Again, we're changing topics, but not really here, because I love music so much, and I loved the fact that when Olivia was on her downtime, I found a magazine called Goldmine and found out she had a lot of recordings that I didn't have. So I was buying these CDs off of Goldmine, and they were imports from Japan or where have you. And so my downtime with her was filled with that. But from after her first bout with cancer, she recorded pretty regularly from 1994 till, again, her death. And a lot of people don't know that, but her music, it's always been exciting when she had a new project coming out. And it's kind of a bummer that, although she's got an album coming out in May that's got a few newer songs or unreleased songs on it, it's kind of sad that era is over for me. I'll never have another singer like that or entertainer. As long as I live, I like other singers and stuff, but she was my absolute favorite. So anyway, I talk about that a lot, don't I? But it all goes from, she was another thing. When I was bored, I would listen to her music, and I could just, listen to album after album of hers and love it. I love other music too, and other singers. I have lots of favorite singers. I have lots of music, but she was always my go-to. But I just like creating things. I think I mentioned earlier I like to paint. I just don't enjoy that as much. I'm not good at it. I don't like to do anything I'm not good at. And it's also messy. So I guess what I love about this podcast is there's no mess involved. It's just me and my phone right now. I do have a microphone and I bought a tablet to aid in my podcasting. I just need to find a little private place where I can go to sit down and maybe have a desk and make notes while I'm podcasting, so I can remember to talk about things and have a more structured podcast instead of what I'm doing today, which is freestyle. Hopefully I'm not boring you. Someone told me I put them to sleep. You know who you are. But I agree with you. I probably do. But I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back with some more of this podcast. I have to credit my older sisters. I was talking about my nephew saying I influenced him somewhat. My sister Kim and my sister Lori are very creative people. Kim doesn't really follow up so much on it. I love you, Kimmy. But she has a lot going on in her personal life. But my sister Lori, now she's an artist, and she was a doll maker. She loves books and poetry and all things wonderful. And that's my nephew John's mom. And I think she influenced my nephew John quite a bit too in his life, because she was very supportive and creative. And I don't think my sister knows how much I respect her and admire her for what she does. She's so good at everything she does, and she's amazing. She's an amazing creative person, and she's had some adventures with her doll making and her art, and it's been amazing, and I'm glad she has that. She's not feeling too well right now, and if y'all can send some prayers and things for my sister. I love you, Lori. I think that my father was an artist as well. He liked to paint and things. My mom actually at one time wanted to be a fashion designer. That's something I forgot to mention in my tribute to her. My sister Lori pointed that out. She did. She drew a lot of fashion pictures, and she liked to sketch. I remember that she had a little, I believe it's called a wardrobe, where they put clothes in. And when you open the door in the mirror, there was a sketch she did of a fashion girl. And I still remember that at my grandma's house. But so we come from a creative background. When we were around my sister, we grew up with the smell of paint, and my dad painted a lot. And he was a draftsman and all that stuff. He designed an underground house, amazing. A house that actually went underground, not just an underground house. Like if there was a storm, you could make it go underground. And it was an amazing design. And just my dad was so creative. And he was always saying, when I'd want something, I could make that for you. One time I wanted a TV, and I could make you one. I'm not kidding. But he did show me how to do stop motion animation with the camera. And I love taking pictures. That's another thing. Not so much anymore, but when I was doing my walks, I was taking pictures of sunsets and stuff, and I got some pretty good pictures. I love photography, and I kind of, that was a hobby of mine for quite a while, and I would try different types of film, like black and white film and what have you. And I really enjoyed that too, as I love taking pictures. I have pictures everywhere that I took. Hi, Livy. My kitty Livy's getting in on the... Say hi, Livy. Say hi. Yeah, she's not going to talk. But I think coming from that creative background, that's where I began to be able to use my imagination. I wished I could have maybe made a living at it. It's more or less just a hobby with me. I don't think I'll ever... I'm 56. I don't think I'll ever make money at what I enjoy doing, but I still can do it as a hobby. Now you heard Livy. Yes, ma'am. I also like I said, I like to write, and I don't really like stories. I don't like to write fiction. I generally like to talk about... I've had enough life experience where I have my own stories. For instance, my midnight shift adventures, and I have a lot more of those stories. And in the future, I'm going to do more. I want to write them down more, because there's so much. Plus, I have to kind of watch what I say, because I'm still employed in the same place, and I hope they don't take offense to what I'm saying. It really has nothing to do with where I work. It has more to do with the area I'm in and the people I meet. I just happen to be working where I am, if that makes any sense. But I think it's important for me to stay busy. I like I said, I have depression, and when I'm idle, I just don't like it. And I tend to think about things and I get really sad, and I don't like that at all. Do not like to feel bad. I do not like to feel unhappy. So I try to get out of the funk whenever I get in it as quickly as possible. And I hope you all have something you can do to deal with boredom and depression that doesn't require a doctor, because I'm thankful that I have an imagination, and I'm thankful that I have a place to have my voice heard and my pictures seen and my blogs read. And it's just a wonderful time to be alive with all this technology and being able to sit in my living room in Christopher, Illinois, or my bedroom as I am right now, and reach out to the world from where I lay. Yes, I'm doing this laying down. And that's another great thing. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this freestyle podcast. I guess it was about boredom. I've got to find a title for this one, and I hope I didn't bore you to death with what I said. I really enjoy this podcast, and I hope you're enjoying it. I do like feedback, and I'm sorry if I put you to sleep, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what I'm here for. If I can make you forget the troubles of your day and get you relaxed enough where you can fall asleep, that's not a bad thing at all. So I think I'm going to wrap this up, and I will be back in a week or so with another podcast. Not sure what I'm going to talk about, but I will come up with something, I'm sure. So thank you for listening, from my head to your ears, and from my heart to your ears. Thank you for listening, and have a great week. Thank you.